Welcome to Southern Sense Talk on Rumble. You are going to love Annie the Radio Chickadee Ubelis and her co-host, C.S. Bennett. You'll find them live here on Fridays from 2:30 p.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Date Time. Check out their website at Southern Sense, as in commonsense.net. It's that easy, southernsense.net. So sit back and relax. They're informative, fun, irreverent, and politically incorrect. You never know where they'll go, but you'll love the journey.
Well, welcome to another adventure here on Southern Sense. I'm your hostess, the least mostess, the radio. No, I'm no longer radio, just the chickadee, Annie Ubelis, along with my co-host and dear friend, Curtis C.S. Bennett. And Curtis, you got to unmute yourself on your side, sweetheart. It will help, won't it? Try again. There we go.
The silent one. The silent
Hey, listen, this time I didn't screw up. I got it right this time.
Wow.
Anyway, welcome aboard because we're live here on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, X, up on Rumble and Substack also, as well as on our homepage, which is southernsense.net. So check it out. We will have the chat rooms open for people to comment at all the time. And we got great guests today. I know if you're looking at the description, it says Mark Tapscott, but Mark Tapscott has decided to retire. And so he will not be joining us today. And I didn't have enough time because I got the cancellation like an hour ago.
Yeah, to make the switch on.
Yeah. And instead, from the Epoch Times, or as I say, Epoch Times, we have Darlene Sanchez, and she's an immigration expert, and she'll be joining us at the start of the show. And then we're going to follow up with AJ Sixer. He's been on twice before. Once he called from his prison cell and called into the show. And the second time we had it, he was with his mom at the DMV getting his driver's license after being pardoned by President Trump.
I remember that.
Yep, Jake Lang will be coming back for another visit with us. And what's new, he's going to be telling us what is going on and what he's now causing trouble with. So it will be a great, fun show today. So sit back, folks, and relax. We got ourselves a great journey here.
Yeah, I find it amazing with all this talk about the economy, the stock market going down and this and that and the other. I mean, Trump warned that there would be, difficult times before things got better. And I believe if we really are supporting this man, we have to stand fast, stand strong, and understand that we'll get through this. And when we do, things will be a whole lot better.
Yeah, because I'm looking at the stocks I have. I have it through Robinhood, which is an online trading. And yeah, I am down, but I'm just leaving everything. Just leave everything as it is. It's going to come back around. That's one of the things we want to talk about because I don't know if anyone else did this, but I did jump on that initial offering of the Newsmax at $10 a share.
And I missed it. I missed it by 4 days.
Now, well, I jumped into it and I did get it at $10 a share. So I'm letting it ride. Just let it ride out. It's going down a little bit. It's going to go up and down, up and down. Just things will start to strengthen and get better. One of the things we will be talking about is, what's going on with our economy, because everyone's worried about these tariffs. But what is happening, matter of fact, didn't print. Oh, shoot. Okay. What is happening, there's Ford and Lincoln are turning around and saying, well, because of these high tariffs and because we are getting parts for the cars from Canada and Mexico, we're giving anyone who wants to buy certain cars in the Ford line at employee prices.
I've heard
the 2024 and the 2025. The Tahoes and the high end, no. But all the other cars and vehicles in Ford and Lincoln, other car companies are doing that also. I believe it was Toyota is now doing a double shift in producing cars. So manufacturing has already started to pick up here in the car industry in the United States in just the last couple of days. Coming from here, when Biden was in office, jobs on the average per month were being produced at 124,000 per month. Last month, private employment grew by 209,000. I mean, you go from 124 to 209,000. Jobs in retail, 23,700. In transportation and warehousing, 22,900. Jobs in construction increased, 13,000. Number of full-time workers increased. Catch this, full-time, because a lot of people were only working part-time at home. Now they're going back full-time. 459,000 over the last month, while labor force participation grew by 232 more Americans seeking jobs. That's a big leap here.
And they don't focus on that. They focus on stock market going down. People are upset with his sending these people back to their country, the gangbangers, and he didn't turn the plane around, and he's not obeying the judge, and this and that and the other. That's what they focus on.
Yeah. Well, catch this. What they're not talking about, and everyone's going, oh, you're hurting the average guy. Hourly wages have risen by 4% over the past year. Since he took office, it's a little over 3 months, 70 some odd days. Under the Biden administration and government employee accounted for nearly 75% of new employment. 75% of the people that were getting jobs, that 124,000 a month, well, most of them were for government jobs. Under Trump, that number has dropped to just around 42% in the month of March.
And just think, the big, beautiful bill has yet to pass and be signed into law. So that's a lot of, that's more good things coming down the road if we would just be patient.
Yeah.
The man only been back in office for a little over 2 months. Give him a break.
Well,
he's done a lot.
Here, this is from Ford. Their announcement that was posted in the Epoch Times yesterday by Jack Phillips. That what Ford said is they're trying for uncertain times for many Americans to mitigate what's going on in the economy and to give them significant savings on a wide range of 20 to 25 gas, hybrid, plug-in hybrid, and diesel Ford and Lincoln vehicles. They will exclude the Ford Raptor models, the Specialty Bronco, the Mustang models, the 2025 Expedition, the Navigator SUVs, and the Super Duty trucks. So the high end, they're saying no, but for all the other stuff, come on, we're giving you a bargain basement price. Now, what they're doing also for potential electric retail customers, they say that the employee pricing is on top of the Ford Power Promise, further extended through June 30th. This includes a complimentary home charger and standard installation with the Ford electric vehicle to wake up charged and ready to go every morning. That was the statement they put out. Actually, Ford builds 80% of its American-sold vehicles here in the United States, and they're going to increase production. A lot of these auto companies are already increasing their production, and that's a good thing for us.
It is. And like you said, the job market, the job data came out today, and it was double than what they expected.
Yeah, it has. Well, folks, we're going to go on to further discussions and everything else, but I want to get further into the show that those that watch know that we do a dedication each and every show to a fallen hero. But I want to also make an observation. If anyone else has seen this and anyone listening, if you find you can do a little research where I missed something, I used to be able to go into the Military Times, and you would go to the page for the fallen, and they would list those military men and women that died while they were on active duty. It could have been a training accident. It could have been in an operation, but they would mark them down and recognize them and post their obituary in there and the circumstances. I have not seen anything posted since June of 2021. Now, what happened in 2021? August 2021, Afghanistan. 13 military men and women were killed because of Joe Biden's withdrawal from Afghanistan, that terrible, awful withdrawal. And you know what? Not one of those 13 military men and women are not listed on the fallen page. It stops in June of 2021. And we know since then there have been training accidents where military men and women have lost their lives. The helicopter crash, that's not listed. That happened recently in Delaware. It's not, they're not there. Who told the Military Times to stop listing the military deaths under the Biden administration? So I would love to know if we can get them back up and if we can get the fallen page to return to giving the respect to the men and women that serve our nation and give the very last all for us. In the interim, I'm referring now to the pages that cover for law enforcement and other first responders. So today's show is going out to Police Officer Jacob Candenoza of the Terrell Police Department in Texas. His end of watch was Sunday, October 18th of 2024. And let me bring up that dedication. And here we go.
Good morning. I'm Arlie Sansom. I'm the Chief of Police for the Terrell Police Department. Hope you understand that this has been a very difficult time for all of us. We're going to give you a brief description of the incident as it occurred earlier this evening. We're not going to be entertaining any questions at this time. Lieutenant Mary Hager is my public information officer. She will describe the incident, and that will be it for today. We will give additional information as it becomes available. Just to understand that it is an extremely difficult time for all of us. Thank you. Mary.
Good morning. First, we want to extend our deepest condolences to the family.
Can you get your name?
My name is Lieutenant Mary Hager. First, we want to send our deepest condolences to the family during this hard time for them as well. We received Officer Candenoza conducted a traffic stop roughly 11 o'clock last night. Shortly thereafter, we had cover units en route. We started receiving 911 calls in the 911 center saying that officer had been shot. A citizen had used his radio, stated the same information that an officer had been shot. Arriving units got on scene, confirmed this. Fire and EMS were cleared to go in, and he was transported here to Baylor Scott and White. The officer was able to provide a license plate at the initial traffic stop. Off-duty officers, along with Texas Highway Patrol, located that vehicle and pursued them into Van Zandt County, where they are still searching for the suspect. That's all the information we have at this time.
Can you say and spell the officer's name?
It's Officer Jacob Candenoza, JACOB CANDANOZA.
Can you pronounce that one more time?
Officer Jacob Candenoza.
And one more time, your first and last name, spell them, and yours too, Chief, please.
Lieutenant Mary Hager, MaryHager.
Arlie Sansom, ARLEYSANSOM. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
If he is caught, will you guys give us an update that the suspect has been
Absolutely.
apprehended? Thank you
As
so
soon
much.
as we know.
Family and friends of fallen Terrell police officer Jacob Candenoza remembered him today as a selfless, honorable man. Good evening, I'm Steve Eager. The 28-year-old officer was killed in the line of duty. He was a husband and father of a young daughter. Fox 4's Lori Brown, live with how he was remembered today. Lori?
Steve, thousands of officers from around the state paid their respects to Officer Jacob Candenoza at his service today at Lake Point Church in Rockwall.
This statement certainly fits Jacob's entire life. Greater love has no man than this, than that he be willing to lay his life down for a friend.
Jacob Candenoza was a veteran of the U.S. Marines who went on to become a Dallas Sheriff's deputy and then an officer with the Terrell Police Department. Terrell Police Chief Arlie Sansom described the night a shooter ended his life after a traffic stop.
I got the call that every police chief prays to avoid. We have an officer down and it's not looking good. I screamed into the night, fearing the worst.
Officer Candenoza pulled over a driver with an expired Mississippi license plate in a Super 8 motel parking lot. Police say the driver, Darian Cortez Johnson, drove off after shooting Candenoza several times. After a search that lasted for hours, Cortez was taken into custody and charged with capital murder. Candenoza was a husband to Devin and father to Amethyst, who is 5 years old. Candenoza's father, David Candenoza, said he is grateful for the support he's received from around the country and world.
It's really overwhelming to see such support. People don't even understand how strong the blue line is. I myself didn't either, but I know now. He would tell me how happy he was to be married to Devin, how he loved being a dad to Amethyst. I call her the Rock.
David Candenoza said his son loved being a police officer.
He was on cloud 9. He hit one of his dreams. He got his own car. I told him, boy, your car is so dirty. He goes, Dad, I just got it. I'll get it squared away.
Hawk Candenoza said he couldn't have asked for a better big brother.
Growing up, all I ever wanted to do was to be just like you. I wanted to dress like you. I wanted to skate better than you and to be the best version of myself just to impress you. From the earliest memories I have, it was always you taking care of me. And if I could have one more conversation, I'd tell you how strong you are as a person.
Dr. Russell Rogers read a statement from Candenoza's wife.
You were the best thing that ever happened to me. You taught us what true, unconditional love was. I will love you forever until we meet again. Eternally yours, Devin.
The law enforcement community is vowing to support Candenoza's wife and daughter.
Let it be said, when we finish this race, we kept them free, we led with grace. Let it be seen, from sea to shining sea, beautiful America, living our legacy. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other. Oh, for the soul of the nation, for the next generation. Let us be known as people of honor, humble and bold, faithful through fire. Let us hold firm to our convictions with wide open hearts, eager to listen. Oh, father, mother, sister, brother, oh, be sure when our time has come, we gave them hope, we made them strong. Let it be said, when we finish this race, we kept them free, yeah, we led with grace. Sister, brother, oh, we gotta learn to love each other, oh, for the soul of the nation, for oh, the next generation.
All right, and we're back. We are watching Southern Sense here live. Oh man, we're having so much fun. I'm watching the numbers start to count up all over the place. We're up on X as well as Facebook and YouTube and LinkedIn and Rumble and Substack. So we're all over the place. So you will find us on Substack as Southern Sense. It'll be under Annie's page. You can watch us there, and also Rumble with Southern Sense. Southern hyphen sense or Southern dot sense? I forget which. Anyway, either way, Annie's way. True.
Better.
Yeah. Listen, the other news that's been coming on, because there was rumors over the last several days that Elon Musk is leaving Doge. And what the left is not telling as they go really crazy over the fact Doge, Elon Musk is leaving, he is limited because he is a temporary government appointee, and he's limited to 130 days, and he must leave. So we're how many days in? 74 days in?
Something like that.
So he's got, what, 50 some odd days left? Little over a month and a half left. You know, and of course then he's going to start. Yeah. So actually, I think it's supposed to be May 20th or something like that. It was May 20th or May 30th. It's supposed to be the last day. What is it? The end of May.
Something like that.
Yeah, it will be the end of May after 130 days. So, you know, of course, he's winding down. He does have his businesses to run. He can't do this forever without, you know, having some problems with this company. They do need him there. So this was like a temporary vacation. But the left is going crazy because Elon Musk, they're breaking up. There's problems in paradise. There's no problems in paradise, folks. He's still going to be doing the job up until the end of May, and then someone else will take over. He's got a great professional staff. If anyone saw the interview that was recently done, I think it was on Fox, I forget. He had the people that he was working with. They're all executives. These are all businessmen and women that know. They run companies. They know what they're looking for. They know how many people they need to do a specific job and how fast and efficiently it can be done and cost effective. They're doing their work. And Doge is supposed to go only up until July 4th of 2026, the day of our 250th anniversary of signing the Declaration of Independence. So Doge is not going to be around forever. They're going to go in, they're going to clean up, and then they're going to walk away. Not everything's going to be perfect, but it's going to be a hell of a lot better than before.
And you're right. The media knew this. They knew when this program was going to end, but they don't focus on that. But thankfully, we do have a guy that knows how to drive them crazy and this talk of running for a third term has really got them going insane.
Hey, folks, it can't happen because you need a constitutional amendment to change it. It was because of Franklin Delano Roosevelt, Franklin Delano Roosevelt,
FDR.
that the Constitution was amended to only 2 terms. It was because of him dying in office after being elected for a 4th time. You know, you can't be president for life.
But if Trump says he can run for a third term, I'm sure he knows something we don't.
No, he knows to turn around and how to stir the pot. He's a showman.
He does that
Not
too,
only
yeah.
is he's not just a businessman, but he's also a showman.
Mhm.
He knows how to put on a good show and how to do the tease.
But he said he's serious.
Well,
So we'll see.
we'll see. Well, you know, if J.D. Vance runs, he could be like Trump's proxy.
Or vice president. He could be Vance's vice president. I don't know.
No, because the Constitution won't allow that because he needs to be able to succeed should anything happen. But let's
Then he would
bring
be
in our
president.
well, let's bring our next guest. And there goes my camera again. He's going going up and down. Come on, guys, just leave me alone in one size. There we go. Let's bring our friend to the show, Darlene Sanchez from the Epoch Times, or as I love to say, Epoch Times. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
And thank you for stopping in, popping in over at last minute. I mean, it was like an hour ago. You get a little hectic. Victoria's going, hey, I need you to help. Because normally we have Mark Tapscott, but he decided he wanted to retire. Shame on him.
Well, it's probably well deserved.
Oh, yes. I've known him actually for a long, long time because I've been doing this for 15 years. And I interviewed him when he was doing Hill Faith. And so, yeah, we go way back. But yeah, good luck and blessings in his retirement. But your specialty, I have been told, little birdie told me, is the immigration policy.
Yes, ma'am. That's my main beat.
Wow. Well, I sometimes have Hannah Davis. She works with fairusa.org. She used to be with Heritage. And we always had her on with the immigration. So you're going to be our immigration to-go person from now on.
Well, I'll try to help as much as I can.
Well, listen, a lot of the things people are screaming about the tariffs, how bad it is. But what has happened on the northern border and the southern border because of the tariffs? Gee, I think those tariffs were just pulled away because certain actions are being done by Mexico and Canada. Am I getting this wrong?
Well, I mean, basically, the tariffs for Mexico and Canada were kind of to say to them, look, you need to do more about securing the border and stopping the flow of fentanyl. That was the whole idea behind them. So, I mean, that's something that was put in place already, from my understanding.
But didn't he turn around and just temporarily relieve them of that?
I think he did. And then I think it's been going back and forth. You're right. It's kind of like whiplash.
Yeah. But I was watching because Newsmax has someone embedded with the Mexican army, one of the crew and camera, and they were showing just what they were doing and what they were recovering. And they had even a Mexican general showing, hey, listen, we went through, we raided this whole area. He opens up the back of the truck, and there are military grade weapons that they were trying to smuggle over the southern border. And he goes, this is what we are trying to stop. And they were showing the marijuana fields, where they're drying it and everything. They're showing where they were getting all the other stuff, the poppy fields. I mean, this was really pretty bad. I don't think America really realized how bad it was down there.
Yeah, I recently did a story about just how sophisticated the Mexican cartels are. Some of the technology they have, their investments, so to speak, in it. They have their own encrypted cell phone lines. They have, they've actually have kidnapped people, tech people. They have lured in engineers to help design some of these features on some of their telecommunication systems. They have drones that are extremely sophisticated. They also have the capability of using a system that was developed by the Israeli military, where you could actually hack someone's phone without them even knowing it. I know we all, at least a lot of people I know, talk about, hey, my phone's listening to me. Well, actually, there is the technology available right now for that to happen. And they have used that. There were some journalists that were killed, overseas because of this particular program named Pegasus, I believe is what they called it.
Yeah.
And there was evidence brought up in court and various investigative venues that said that this was used to, track some journalists. And then right after they were able to track them, they were supposedly tracked, then they were killed by cartel members. So it is serious stuff.
Haven't the smugglers been known to use submarines?
Now there is that allegation. I mean, the whole thing of President Trump declaring these people as terrorist organizations, they're acting as government entities is the idea behind all that, right? So, I have had experts tell me that there are people in the Mexican government that, they have ties to the cartels. And, I have people that have lived down there on the border. There was I don't know if y'all heard this or not, but I guess it was last month, there was a rancher in Texas that had a ranch over on the other side of the border, which is pretty typical. A lot of people that live on the border there, Mexican-American heritage. My husband's family's from down that area, and it's pretty common. So anyway, he went over to his ranch, and they hit an explosive device on the ranch road, and it killed him. It killed his friend that was in the car. There was another, his friend's wife was in the back seat. She survived it, but they're using that too. So I guess the idea here is that it is a very dangerous world in Mexico right now. The cartels, though, there's also evidence that the cartels are kind of like regrouping and saying to themselves, we're going to have to cooperate a little bit with each other now because, look, we're up against the U.S. military. So there is that idea that they are consolidating in some respects and kind of working together, which is kind of alarming.
Well, let you know that I do get the Epoch Times on my electronic devices as well as to the mailbox. So I do read it extensively, and I have been reading all of your marvelous articles because I forgot that you were the one that wrote about the rancher with the IED. It broke my heart.
Yeah.
But they're finding a lot of this going on, and the drones are what are really scary because these drones are capable of firing weapons.
Absolutely. And they're also capable of delivering drugs.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a horrible situation, but Trump is starting to make it, a little bit safer. I see the numbers are down drastically. What are you seeing with it?
Well, actually, last week I went to El Salvador, and the Epoch Times sent me down there. I went down there and kind of investigated, some of the ideas of why, we're shipping people or deporting people down there, the Tren de Agua gang members, and what the people of El Salvador thought about that. And it's really interesting because you're talking about the numbers being down. And I spoke to a political analyst there in El Salvador. He'd run for office there, and he's very well connected. And he's like, look, if Latin America and, El Salvador is an example of going from one of the most dangerous places on earth to one of the safest now, per capita number of murders, that if they can do it, other Latin American countries can do it, such as Mexico. And that when you have security and safety in your country, then that attracts businesses. People aren't afraid. They don't want to leave. Why would they leave their native land if they have both security and the opportunity, economic opportunity? The economic opportunity will come when the country is secure, is what he was saying to me. And so he was saying, the rest of Latin America could do this, and this would definitely go a long ways in cutting down, the desire, even the desire to leave. But of course, with President Trump in office, the way he shut down this border, it's just, makes your head spin, really. the sharp decrease. And I know some of that was going on, to be fair, beforehand, but that was because I believe under, President Biden, he had changed, he had reversed some of those policies that had left the border pretty much wide open and went back to a more restrictive policy, which did cut down some of it. But that was like at the waning days of 2024 leading up into, the election. And a lot of people say, well, that's just too little too late.
Yeah, it was. Definitely was. And what really drove me crazy is when he was selling parts of the wall at discount prices.
Yeah.
I mean, that was just stunning. Well, we did a whole show on that.
Yeah, I covered that as well.
So I probably used some of your articles. But, it is getting better. And now people are starting to self-deport.
Yes.
Which is what we wanted to see. Listen, if you go voluntarily back over the border, we will let you come back in, but legally.
Yes. Yes.
And how is that happening?
Well, if they catch you, basically, what they're saying is it's going to be like 20 years before you can even think about trying to apply again to come over. So if you leave now without being caught and forced to be deported, then you can apply from your homeland and, start the process there, which is, of course, what everybody, that would be the normal process anyway, and I guess in most Americans, the way they're thinking, why would they be doing it any other way to begin with? And it's simply because the United States allowed that. And of course, we do have a program where if people feel like they're in threat for their lives, their lives are being threatened, they could come. However, it's just like others point out. So if you're in South America and you're in fear for your life, why do you're traveling all the way from South America through Central America just to get to the United States because you're afraid? Are there no other countries in between there where you could actually get asylum and not be afraid of violence? And that's the whole argument, of course. That's why, people say, well, it's not legitimate. And most of the people that do come to the United States, it's for economic reasons. I think there's a huge percentage. I'm trying to remember now what the percentage was back before the Biden administration, but I think it's something like 80% are not eligible for asylum based on, the threat that they're in fear of their lives and there's a threat against them. But on the other hand, I do know, I've spoken to some Venezuelans, and I guess Cubans could fall into that category as well. They're fleeing communist countries where there are, these regimes, they're not about freedom at all. So there's that to weigh as well, but I think that what happened here was, 11 million people, there's some estimates that it's higher than that, coming across our border in 4 years is just mind-blowing. And I think that the public has said enough is enough. We can't sustain this. All the money we spent on NGOs, all the money we've spent on just giving them basic care when Americans such as veterans were on the streets and homeless and suffering. Yeah. I heard that a lot.
Yeah, I've delved into this a lot. I'm only second generation American. My grandfather, one side, fled Italy because he knew Mussolini and he was in fear. My other grandfather was brought over by his father, dumped in an orphanage with his brother, and he took off. So I know how they came here legally. My second husband, who passed away a number of years ago, was a refugee from Latvia, fleeing from the Soviet control right after World War II. My current husband, the family knew the Castros. He is Cuban American. So I live this just about every day of my life. And when I see what's happening here, I keep on saying, economic escape is not. It's not a reason. It's not a reason. If you came like my family did, or your husband's family, I can see that. But we have to turn around and do it legally. We used to have it up until I think it was 72, where you had to have a place to work. You had to have a place to live. Someone had to sponsor you. You could not have any government, what do you call it?
support.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Brain fart. Yes, any government support for 5 years.
Yeah.
And you must pledge to become an American citizen. All of that was removed. And is there any way we can get that put back?
You know, I think there's such gridlock right now, in Congress, as everybody knows. I really kind of worry about that. I feel like that it's really not going to be fixed the way it needs to be fixed. I'm hopeful that something would happen or will happen. But as well as I do that executive orders are pretty much only going to be in effect for as long as that president's in office.
Mm-hmm.
And then, a new president, whether it's the same party or not, can change those executive orders. And right now, that seems to be the only way that the government is functioning fully right now, is through the executive orders. So I think that it does need to be addressed. And I'm getting ready to do a story in a couple weeks about, there's all this noise out there saying, look, we have to have illegal immigration in this country, or we don't have anyone to pick the crops. We don't have anyone to do the jobs that America doesn't want to do. However, I'm going to be speaking to a farmer in Arkansas who has used, the visa program to bring in temporary farm workers for years. And it's
H-1B1. Yes. Yeah. H-1B1. Yeah.
And he says that he can't, when you hear people say, I can't get American workers. Well, in some respects, that is true. He wants American workers. He advertises in his little town, but a lot of people don't want to go out on the farm and work like that. But what ends up happening is it ends up costing him more to produce his crops because of the visa program to bring in temporary farm workers, because you have to pay for their lodging, you have to pay for their transportation, you have to pay them a certain wage, of course, and all of that is more expensive. You think about the travel and the upkeep than just hiring somebody local that would like to come out. But we're talking about small communities too, and our farmlands, they've been diminishing. There's not a lot of family farms anymore. It's all become giant companies owning all of our farmland. And so it is becoming very difficult, what they tell me, to find people in the communities, which, they're bare bones now anyway. Most young people move off. They move off and go to the cities to find better paying jobs. So that is something happening. And what this farmer told me is that without that program, he's like, all these farms are going to go bust. He's like, they rely on it so heavily. And he says there's improvements that need to be made to this program that's already in effect. So I have to spotlight that, Here's a form of legal immigration that has been effective, and it could be more effective.
Well, we also have a failing birth rate. So American citizens are not producing enough to maintain our nation. And everyone's going, well, that's why we need immigration. But there's illegal aliens, and then there's legal immigration.
Right.
And you're not going to get the quality person if you're using illegal aliens who may have been smuggled or trafficked in here and sold into slavery, or trafficked for sex, or whatever it is. And what about the missing children we have yet to find?
That is disturbing. I did a story, I guess about a year ago, about it. It kind of touched on that, but it was about the huge waste and fraud that you see DOJ uncovering now. I wrote an article about it, about how millions of dollars was being spent on this facility in North Carolina that was supposed to hold migrant children that had been separated from their parents. That facility, people were quote working there, but there were no children there. And as far as I know, none have ever arrived there. And so, they said that they would farm them out to like states, like they would go to the state agencies, and the agencies would find them someplace. And this was just for emergencies, like for overflow. But it was a story about waste, government waste, but it was also touching on these, unaccompanied minors. And, the huge influx happened around 2022, 2023 is when, there was the most that I recall. But yeah, they were talking about how they couldn't, they didn't follow up on the phone calls. They weren't required to follow up on a phone call to talk to the unaccompanied minor. And a lot of times what they would do is they would call, they wouldn't get an answer. So, the question is, was there something wrong there, or was it just a situation where they couldn't reach them? And they weren't obliged to keep calling and figure it out. That, I think, was where the problem is. I'm not sure where the administration is at this point on trying to correct that, but I do know that they've said they want to make sure to find these kids.
Darlene,
that is a huge tragedy. Jeez.
Yes, Arthur.
have you had the opportunity to interview like just regular residents, homeowners who complain that they wake up in the morning or go to bed at night and there's illegal traffic on and off their property and gang members and things like that? How do they feel about?
Well, I have talked to some people. I'm in Texas, so I've talked to some people, and listened to them speak about, the border and about their property. And yeah, they're terrified because they don't know who's coming in. They see people in fatigues. Are those cartel members?
Yeah.
A lot of people would say, yeah. And then there was that case, I don't know if you recall this, over in, I believe it was Arizona, where, the rancher on the property there, he saw some guys come over. They were armed. He supposedly fired a gunshot in the air, and later they found someone dead on the property, and they accused him of shooting and killing him. He was cleared of that. But that right there shows you, he's 70-some years old. And I've listened to others, property owners, that are afraid. They're like, we don't know who's coming here. I have children. I'm afraid to have my children out playing on my ranch because I don't know who's coming here. It is a problem, especially on the border states. Absolutely.
Well, darling, we got to have you back. We definitely have to have you back. And we'll have it planned in advance so we have a more structured program. But it's always been a pleasure. And tell Victoria, thank you very much for sending you over to us.
All right.
So we'll be speaking to it. And people can find you at the Epoch Times.
All right. Thank you so much. Have a great day.
All right. God bless.
All right. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Darlene Sanchez. Let me just do this correctly. And we want to bring in our friend. This will be his third time around with us. And this time he's not with his mommy. We want to welcome Jake Lang.
Hey, guys. God bless America.
Last time we saw you, you were at Motor Vehicles getting your driver's license with your mom.
Yeah. God has been good. He's elevated and catapulted me and the whole entire January 6th movement. Now we're running for United States Senate. We've got myself running, and there's a couple other Jan 6ers running for Congress and some state positions as well. So it's just amazing to see. Just 70 days ago, I was in the DC jail, and now clean shave, got my senatorial campaign outfit, and doing great campaign events and raising money, and it's just amazing. God is so good to us.
Well, you have an amazing story, and I did watch the documentary that you did. Make sure I get it correct. The documentary is, here we go, The Truth About January 6th, that people can find on Rumble under Jake Lang. It tells not just the story of January 6th, but what you went through individually. And never in this nation have I seen not just one person, but constitutional rights in mass being violated. The right to a speedy trial, the right to face your accuser, the right to not suffer cruel and unusual punishment. And you guys were treated so much differently than the regular prisoners. And what you went through, 900 days of solitary confinement, and you're still sane?
Well, that's for you to determine. That's for the American people to determine. Well, God did cover us with an amazing spirit of protection. He says in the word that he does not give us a spirit of fear, but power, love, and a sound mind. And so, even in the depths of 2.5 years of solitary confinement, which I went through, I knew he was with me. I knew his spirit was overshadowing me and covering me. His wings surrounded me and covered me like a mother hen. And that's how I was able to survive, not by any kind of mental gymnastics or exercises I was able to do, although I kept myself very busy running the Political Prisoner podcast and managing a few different January 6th organizations, raising over $2 million for my fellow Jan 6ers, getting lawyers for 50 of them through the January 6th Legal Fund, and documentaries that you watched. And, so we had a lot to do, which not all other prisoners are blessed with. most guys just do their time reading books and trying to stay some type of physically fit, doing push-ups and stuff, which I did have plenty of time. I read hundreds of books and did almost, I think I calculated about 1.5 million push-ups throughout my time incarcerated. So I got those things in, but we had so much purpose. And, the January 6th story of our persecution was just running parallel side by side with Donald Trump's persecution. So we were all going through this as a country, the Republican Party, conservatives, as a group of persecuted people. So, I found a lot of solace in the community that we had, the January 6th support groups, the prayer groups. We had these amazing prayer warriors every single night at 9 p.m. Tens of thousands of Americans would pray for us across the country and sing the national anthem with us. And so, through prayer and keeping focus and having a purpose and whatnot, I was able to survive, and not just survive, but ultimately thrive throughout my 4 years and 6 days of political incarceration with never having a trial.
When I was reading this, you had multiple charges placed against you. I read that hit piece that was on Florida's Phoenix. What a hit piece. They claimed that you struck an officer 16 times, and they put down to the minute and second. They had all these charges against you, and yet not once were you ever brought into court. And anytime you went and spoke to your attorney, you were put in solitary confinement.
Yeah, I mean, most of the things that occurred that we didn't have an opportunity to fight against, as far as the increased persecution when they would try to coerce you into taking a plea deal, but then basically say, if you don't take the plea deal, we'll throw you into solitary, we'll make your life a living hell while you're incarcerated and stuff. All of those things basically transpired as a weaponized tool that the prosecutors use and the Department of Justice use to turn people against Trump. They wanted people copping out on plea deals and signing a document saying, Donald Trump made me do it. He's the reason why January 6th occurred and all this stuff. So, these are all these different dirty tricks that the prosecution uses. And that's ultimately why they lost, because, they did things in the darkness that were exposed in the light. And I believe many of these people that, wrongfully incarcerated us and tortured us are going to be held criminally and civilly liable. We have a $50 billion lawsuit that my organization, the Federal Watchdog, is currently putting together. We have a litigation hold letter that we'll be releasing this Wednesday, including a press conference we'll be doing. And so, there's justice coming for the Jan 6ers. Sometimes the wheels of justice grind slowly here. And it's just that way sometimes. But, I'd love to see a criminal justice system reform, that people don't waste 4 years of their lives like myself in pretrial detention, especially with no criminal record. I should have been home, fighting my case from the outside.
At least on bail.
Yeah, 100%.
That was the whole thing, not bail. And I've spoken to other J6s too. And when they took the plea deal, it was like, well, your life is going to be completely ruined and you'll never see the light of day again unless you do this. And people are signing on to stuff that they weren't even guilty of, just so that they can go home.
Yep. I mean, I'm a young man. I'm turning 30 years old actually in 3 days, just old enough to run for Senate.
Happy birthday.
Oh, thank you. God is good. Thank you. And, I was in a different circumstance than a lot of the guys. A lot of these guys had like 3-4 kids at home, toddlers, right? Mortgages, family businesses, generational businesses, trucks, and all this stuff. And so they're looking at their circumstances, and I don't give any leeway for compromising my integrity, and I never would. But other people were in different circumstances than I was. I never even considered for a second taking a plea deal and bending the knee to these people, these tyrants, these communist Marxists that were trying to destroy us. But other men were in different circumstances. And when they said, basically, take the plea and you'll be home in 6 months and be able to get on with your life and provide for your family, or go to trial and possibly get put in prison for 10 to 12 years. Your 3-year-old daughter will be graduating high school by the time you come home. And, they use these type of psychological warfare tactics. And, I wasn't put in that position because, I have a fiance now. I'm so blessed.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, she's a Jan
Congratulations.
6er too. She stuck by my side the entire time I was incarcerated. Rachel, my love. And, but I was in the same circumstance where I had children at home and a lot of people who depended upon me and stuff. So I just decided I'm just going to hold my ground no matter what comes, just keep on pushing. And, that's ultimately what God gave us all the success here in, the pardon process and what we went through, just uncompromising, unyielding integrity, by God's grace, to never bow down or take a knee to these people. And President Trump saw that stand from myself and many Jan 6ers, and he ultimately respected that stand as patriots that we were, calling us patriots, calling us warriors and stuff, and decided on day one to put that pen to paper and get us out of the gulag.
Jake.
Hey, what's up? How we doing, Bennett?
All right. You mentioned lawsuit earlier. Now, when you're in prison, you are known by number, right?
Yeah, 7648-0054.
All right. Were you able to learn the full names of your correctional officers while you were there? Or how does that work?
Well, so you only get their last name technically on their badge. Sometimes you get a first initial. It's rare to get an officer ID number, which, when you request that out on the street, you ask an officer, what's your name and badge number? They're legally required to give you that. And it's the same way in prison, but you have no recourse. If they don't do it, it's like lock you in your cell and stuff. And, you have no camera to record the interactions and stuff. So we would get stonewalled by, like, let's say, for example, a prisoner was beaten by one of the guards. Right. And then that guard immediately leaves the unit. And then all of a sudden, this big, team of all of the white shirts, we call them, they wear white shirts. The other officers, they're the supervisors. The other officers will wear, the dark colored uniform. And so the white shirts would come in and you'd be like, hey, you'd ask the white shirt, what was that officer's full name and his, correction ID number, officer number, whatever. And they'll stonewall you. It's like a big gang. They operate like thugs that protect each other. And, hold, basically cover up each other's mistakes and, horrible human rights abuses as well. And so it was very difficult to be able to get that information, but we do have a lot of information. A lot of my Jan 6 guys, out of 1,600 of us, there were like 50 to 100 guys that kept some really remarkable notes. And so those things include timestamps, dates, locations, officers' last names, and stuff. So when we get, and as we're doing right now, the Federal Watchdog, my organization, all these things, we have a binder for each Jan 6er, and we're, filling the case files with all of the information. Was your home raided by the FBI? Did they point guns at your children? Did they flashbang you guys? Did, all these different things are different injuries that occurred, and each one of those things has a certain compensation level that will be determined by the court. So, people like myself, who did 900 days of solitary confinement, each day, let's say, for example, would cost the government in a compensation restitution, let's say about $2,000 or maybe more, maybe $4,000, depending on how people interpret it. And so, I'd get paid out in the certain mannerisms as far as how much I went through. And some people were only on home confinement. I don't mean to say that only, but they didn't go through solitary. They were in home confinement. Let's say maybe that's worth $800 a day or something of that nature. And so every Jan 6er, whether they went through the worst torture, beaten, or they just got probation and they never saw the inside of a prison cell, we each will be receiving compensation. And Donald Trump just actually made public, a public statement about it in his recent interview with Greg Kelly from Newsmax. Greg Kelly asked that question, and Donald Trump basically said, many people in my administration are looking into it. They support the Jan 6ers a lot, and we're going to try to right these wrongs. So we're expecting, very soon to at least get some financial compensation. The years they took from us and, the lives that were lost, multiple Jan 6ers committed suicide, the health, deterioration that I've seen many of my brothers, both mental and physical health, we will never be able to get those things back. Plus the cherished memories. I missed my only sister's wedding, my father and his new wife's wedding. I missed deaths and births of my niece and, of grandparents and stuff. And so All of these things, it's reprehensible to even think about missing these things. And what I went through, and times that by 1,600 other people, we won't ever be able to get those things back, but we maintained our dignity, and God will restore all the years that the locusts have eaten.
Wow. Well, any of the other J6ers you want to send my way, we will also bring them onto the show. So you're going to be the leader. You're the top dog.
Well, I'll send you swarms of them, my guys. A lot of them have very unique stories. Not all of us, have the same background or, socioeconomic class or from the same states. We have Jan 6ers from all 50 states. You have people with incredible stories of how they even got to the Capitol, to drive from Alaska all the way down. And, I've just met so many kind-hearted Christian, loving gentlemen that are patriots through and through. A lot of them are actually, most of the guys I was incarcerated with are former veterans and men of the armed services, U.S. Marines, Army Rangers, Green Berets, special operators, Navy, paramedics, firefighters, sheriffs, police officers. You have a great group of guys that were all, thrown into this prison system together, and we got to know one another and build bonds and brotherhoods and stuff. So, yeah, these are my closest friends in the world now, and I talk to about 100 of them a day. I try to keep up with all my guys. I get phone calls and text message groups, so I'll send you plenty of them, Annie.
I got one follow-up question.
Okay, Curtis.
Did you find any guard that was sympathetic to what you were going through? I can't believe they all were bad.
No, they're definitely not all were bad, including some of them became some of my closest mentors. I mean, out of let's say 8 out of 10 of them were just completely like robotic, and a lot of them were even like completely, because I was in DC most of the time. They're like Black Lives Matter, super liberals that hated us and thought we were white supremacists. And then they got to know us over years of incarceration, and they were, falling asleep on shift when they were using our unit because we were, a bunch of safe, normal citizens and not like the dangerous carjackers and like the gang members and stuff. They're normally used to having to be on point and, their heads on a swivel. And when they came to our unit, they'd bring a bunch of snacks, they'd sit at their desk, eat, and then pass out because they realized we were not dangerous. The media was lying about us. But I had this one prison guard, amazing man from Nigeria, Christian brother of mine, that when I was in solitary, he was the unit officer. He would come down to my cell on a nightly basis and bring the Bible, and we'd place it. There's a little slot in your cell when you're in solitary. That's where they put the food through, and it's about between your waist and your knee high. And so he would come bring a chair down there where we put the Bible on the tray slot. I would sit on the floor of my cell and we would read the Bible and pray together and whatnot. So I've seen incredible acts of human love like that. And he's given me some pieces of advice and some spiritual lessons that'll always remain with me. And I've also seen, God forbid, prison guards mercilessly beat my Jan 6 brothers for nothing, for asking for a roll of toilet paper. Even myself have sustained lots of different assaults from the prison guards, including, we sung the national anthem every night at 9 p.m. and it became like a battle cry of resistance for us. And I was singing it one time when the guards were moving us from one unit to another unit for no reason. It was like we didn't know what was happening to us. I started singing to rally, our courage and, try to keep everybody together and not fearful of what was about to happen to us. And they came and they threw me up against the wall and punched me, told me to stop singing. And, I've been pepper sprayed in myself for doing Bible studies and, a lot of different egregious things. So I've seen the good in people. I've seen the worst. That goes for prisoners and for guards themselves. I've seen some prisoners that have gone through 35 years of incarceration, starting when they're 18 years old. And in that time have improved themselves, have fought against, the oppression of the system, refused to become animals, refused to dehumanize themselves or dishonor themselves, got an education, became articulate, got close to God, worked out their bodies and their minds while, through decades of imprisonment, and are some of the most genuine, good souled people I've met, maybe when they were a young man and they made these mistakes, they may have been misled and extremely misled by the world and made some heinous mistakes. But I've seen the human spirit of endurance and endeavoring against, the impossible animalistic structure that is a prison, and seen them endure. And then I've also seen, I've had knives put up on my throat. I've gotten in some pretty crazy life or death scrambles in prison for people trying to hurt me for being who I am, and and whatnot. So I've seen the full spectrum of of human grace and human sinister outlooks on life all transpire in the prison. So it's like a crash course in humanity. It truly is like a jungle hierarchical system in prison, and it's a crazy place to be, and I wouldn't wish it on my worst enemy.
You're aware that I'm a former police officer, retired from that, and when I hear about the horrors that you went through, I just couldn't believe that people that swore an oath like I did would do something as horrendous as that. But I'm also glad to see that you saw the good and grace in those of us that truly believe and truly know that we're here to protect and serve. So on their behalf, I'm glad that you're safe. I'm glad you're home. Now you're running for Senate here out of the state of Florida, the great state of Florida. And I hate driving through the area you live in, especially on I-95. And Curtis is in Florida. But you're running a primary against someone that no one knows. And no one actually knows that she took over Marco Rubio's seat, Ashley Moody. I never heard of her.
No one has. There was a poll that was recently done. I think like 75% or nearly 75% of Florida voters never heard of this woman before. And God bless Ashley Moody. I'm not here to just trounce people 24/7, but she is as establishment as it gets. She has this like kind of monopoly path of a career and life, and she almost comes off as sterile and lacking of emotion and spirit. And that's not what we need right now for Florida in the United States Senate. Florida is the most MAGA state in the country. The energy here to get Trump elected, the boat parades. We have Mar-a-Lago here, which is like the conservative Hollywood, they call it. We have a great state, a great opportunity to elect somebody like myself who has been through the persecution I've been through, who is not a traditional political candidate, a political outsider. 70 days ago, I was inside a prison cell, and now I'm an outsider, just like Trump, running against an establishment person. So it's kind of like the Ron DeSantis Trump battle of this past election, again, outplaying because Ashley Moody is a staunch Ron DeSantis supporter. She kind of has the uniparty feel to her and policies as well. And, me being pardoned by President Trump and being close to Trump's camp, it's kind of like DeSantis versus Trump 2.0 here in Florida. And I think that the Trump camp's going to claim the victory again.
All right, well, I want to mention, I went onto your other website, Blessed.News.
Oh, yes.
So now you'll see Southern Sense up on Blessed.News.
Oh, there we go. Good. I'll tell my tech. So Blessed.News Network is one of the companies I was blessed by God to be able to start. I came into contact with all these great patriots that, were giving us a voice when we had no voice while I was incarcerated. And I decided, coming from the tech background that I have, to put together a kind of like a Rumble or a YouTube style video sharing site, and people like yourself go and upload it. So I'll tell my team to verify your account, give you the blue check mark, and, boost you up to the top there.
I uploaded a video last night, and it was last week's interview with Dr. Robert Malone. Of the COVID,
great,
Dr.
man.
Mark Malone. And also he was on with former Congressman from Florida, Ted Yoho, as well as Dr. Stanley Ridgely, who wrote the book about exposing DEI.
Wow.
So it was a great foursome that we had. So I thought that was a great one to upload. So you'll see that there. But going onto your other website that you're running for Senate, it's Jake Lang for Senate. You'll see it on the banner here. And if people are looking at the description, they click on your name, it'll take you directly to your website. And you're starting to put it together, and it looks good so far, your policy priorities. And right now
MAGA, 100% America first.
So you put up 10 of the top points. And one of the things that I see on here, you're talking about taxes. I had read the Fair Tax book by Robert Bortz. So I don't know if you're familiar with it.
I've heard of fair tax, yes.
All right. So would you be then also there to promote fair tax being passed in the Senate?
Well, so the fair tax, just to be clear, is the equal tax brackets, right? Is that
No,
similar to?
no. Well, it basically is you're paying a tax on the end. You don't pay the tax on the production. The only time you pay a tax is on the brand new item you buy.
Okay, yeah.
So
So it's like a amended sales tax. Yes, I'm in support of that.
yeah, because I keep on trying to explain to people, you decide how much you want to pay in tax by deciding what item you buy. Instead of
Yeah,
the
consumerism.
$2,000,
Yeah, consumption tax. Yeah.
yeah, instead of going, I don't want to pay tax on $2,000 TV, I'll go for the $250 TV. And you
Yeah.
keep the person within their own economic bracket. So that's one good thing. The other thing is we're talking about Doge and cutting money and bringing the budget in. Would you also be for a balanced budget amendment?
Of course. Well, one of the things that we're looking to do with this campaign, specifically for the state of Florida, but also because it's a federal position, United States Senate, is really to start to bring the Trump agenda, especially the Doge aspect, to each individual state. We need audits in each individual state, and we can, secure these things for our posterity by passing them into law. And one of the things that I'm calling upon the United States Senate and Congress to do right now is all these executive orders that are brilliant that Trump is putting in right now. How have there not been, each one of them is not being brought up as a bill to get law passed on these? I don't know what is happening in our Congress. Our legislative branch right now is asleep at the wheel, and we need firebrands. We need real patriots to come in and to turn Trump's Make America Great Again, America First agenda into law that can last more than just these 4 years. Because if, God forbid, the elections are continue to be lacking integrity, right? And stolen left and right, and they pull off some type of ridiculous theft again. And Donald Trump's agenda is just changed by 800 executive orders in the first day. It would just be like a spinning tire. And we can't have that. We need traction in this company, the Freudian slip, in this country right now. God willing, to turn this company into a country.
Trump is a businessman.
Well, your website also touches on your policy on immigration and the border. And you saw our previous guest, Darlene Sanchez, who is the immigration expert over at the Epoch Times. What a nice coincidence, And of course, I've been telling everyone since I've ever started talking on this show that every state is a border state. You have an international airport. You have access to other airports and highways. So every state has access to immigration, but it has to be legal immigration. You talk about maybe doing the largest deportation in history, but I do remember Truman had done that also, a Democrat. But would you be more willing to say, hey, listen, as they're doing now, the self-deportation motivation rather than doing large sweeps?
Well, I mean, in the self-deportation motivation, are you talking about for the celebrities like Rosie O'Donnell and whatnot that's saying that she's going to self-deport to Ireland? Are you talking about?
She is. She did.
Oh, okay. God is good. God is good. I'm out of prison and she's on some random island in the Northern Hemisphere.
And that was another thing I was wondering, Jake. How often were you informed with the news? I mean, did you know when Donald Trump won, or somebody had to tell you?
Well, that I did know, but I did 900 days solitary. And so when I was in solitary, it's very limited access to my friends, family, lawyers, or anything. So when I was in solitary in Brooklyn, New York prison, Donald Trump was shot in the head. And I didn't learn about that till 3 days later. And the prison guard, he's serving my lunch or whatever. He's like, hey, he knows I was Jan 6. He's like, did you know President Trump was shot in the head 3 days ago? And I was like, what? And I'm like so disconnected from what's going on. But at that point, we knew he was okay. So they said, no, he's okay. It's just, just nicked him and stuff. But so I didn't have the whole entire meltdown that most of America did for like 10 minutes as like just trying to understand like how bad the wound was and whatnot. But, to get back to the policy questions as well, because they're so important to me, but overarching political and social problems is really the key to the victory of this campaign and really the victory of America, because anybody can give you an elaborate sense on policy and, a lot of plans that they're looking to enact and whatnot. And those are good. As politicians and representatives of the people and public servants, we need to have our ducks in a row. But there's some things that even go beyond that, and that's the health of our country, as far as not just the Maha movement, but the spiritual and social health of our country. And for too long, the United States Senate, especially the Republican side, I mean, the Democrat side is Marxist, but the Republican side has been marred by this weak-kneed, feckless leadership of Mitch McConnell. And so really what my candidacy is about the American dream and coming out of a prison cell as a political prisoner to come back to the Capitol. As the website, the direct website link to donate is takebackthecapital.com, which is, that goes right to the WinRed. And really this movement to take back our capital as we the people, as everyday Americans, as not these polished politicians that can give you policy for 3 weeks, but then can take kickbacks, they could just talk policy all day long, but they don't have the integrity. They're not actually worried about the health and the future of our country just to enrich themselves. And so, my policy on foreign immigration, illegal immigration, is just like Donald Trump's. We need to make sure that our society is not being overrun by people who do not share the same cultural and spiritual values of us, so that we change the entire outlook of America. That's not what our founding fathers had envisioned. E pluribus plurim, out of many, one, means to assimilate, to become Americans, to become part of this great system, and not to come bring the third world attitude, the Marxist, liberal, communist attitudes that destroyed the countries that these people are fleeing from to America. And so, I have a strong stance on immigration, but what I have even stronger is I will, by God's grace, when I become a United States Senator, officially mark the end of the uniparty Republican rhino hacks in Senate and mark the new era, the golden generation, the golden era of America, having a political outsider like President Trump in the Senate as a firebrand, as a relentless patriot, will be more than any policy I could ever, attempt to enact. We're talking about generational change. We're talking about the culmination of what our founding fathers had originally envisioned for our country.
Man, I'm not moving to Florida. I love my South Carolina, but my sister's down there. So I know she's going to be watching this video, and I know that they will end up voting for you. You're going to be fantastic. You've got the power, the passion, and the will. And that's what we need, someone to be there and be motivational to get your fellow senators to realize where you're coming from, and not be a Cory Booker. Did you get
it's a little drab. It's so drab in the United States Senate. We really have like this old country club, like kind of entitled elitists that are representing us in Senate. I mean, we have Senator Josh Hawley, who's, somewhat MAGA, God bless him. He wasn't a pro-Jan 6er, I know that. But, we really, that's the only one that's even on the tip of the tongue to even name of somebody that kind of has the relentless fire. Rand Paul as well, too. But he's a libertarian side. He's not necessarily MAGA. But, we don't have the Marjorie Taylor Greens, the Matt Gaetz, these Thomas Masseys, these relentless patriots representing us in Senate. And we only have just a small handful in the United States Congress. And so the numbers need to change. We need to only be able to pick out a small handful of rhinos, not the other way around, And so that's what that's what people voted for in 2024, the golden age. They voted for President Trump's agenda to not just be, a small dot, a blimp in the political scope of history, but to be a revolutionary act to change our country, to bring it back to what the founding fathers had envisioned. And that's what, my campaign is all about. Yeah, making sure that we, under promise and over deliver instead of what every other politician does, as far as tell you that they're going to do all these things, and they go and they take the Monsanto checks, they take the GMO checks, they sell our kids down the river with all these garbage additives they're putting in our food, and they let all the lobbyists pervert them and push whatever garbage they want on us. And I just can't do that. I refused to take the plea deal when I was incarcerated, and I will refuse to take any foreign money, to take any kind of NGO's influence over my integrity as a United States Senator.
You got me sold. And Curtis is involved in his county GOP party too. So maybe Curtis, you can get him to speak at one of your meetings.
Yeah, what I would like to do is to get him together with Ted Yoho, former congressman. He can give you
that'd be
some
great.
advice. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Just
You know,
leave your contact information with Andy, and I get it.
Sure. Shoot me a DM on my X account.
Mhm.
That's where, and by the way, everybody that's listening, most of the campaign updates and what we're doing on a daily basis is coming from my X account, which is Jake Lang, Lang J6. So just Curtis, shoot me a DM on X, Jake Lang J6, and we'll make all those things happen. And God willing, more things that we don't even see yet. Hopefully, he brings about our relationship.
Yeah, I don't want to put his phone number in the public domain, but you know, Andy,
here we go.
she'll put us in contact with you.
Awesome.
I'm up on X right now.
Jake Lang. If you type in Jake, it should pop up. Trying to take the #1 spot from Jake Paul. Depends on if you're X. If you type in Jake, I will pop up first. But Jake Paul's there. I'm actually going to be announcing something to do with Jake Paul here pretty soon for the campaign. It's going to be very interesting. So we've got lots of great updates.
This interview just went over onto your account.
Okay, awesome. That's what I like to hear.
It just got posted just right now. So, I mean, we only got about less than 8 minutes left, and holy cow, it's so much fun talking with you. And I got to say, last Friday in the morning, I went over to the local Rotary Club, and they asked me to be guest speaker. And the guest speaker the topic was, what does it mean to be an American? And everything you say that you're saying actually coalesced into what I had said last week, that we have a set values of this nation, and that when people come in, they have to accept that. Any other nation you go to, you have to conform to whatever their morals and their values are. Here, we accept a wide variety of people, but we're all based on the same basic principles our founding fathers laid before us, starting with the Bible, with King Harold codifying English common law, to the Magna Carta, to the Mayflower Compact, to our Declaration, and to our Constitution. Those are the bricks of the foundation. And as long as we adhere to them, it doesn't matter what your religion, your ethnicity, or whatever it is. Just stay by the basic ABCs. And that's what America's about. And it's also about courage, because we have a nation that has courage like no other nation has. And you are the epitome of the courage.
Oh, thank you. He who lives in me is greater than he who lives in the world. I've just been so blessed by God to be a recipient of his grace, to be a vehicle, for him and a messenger for the Lord Jesus Christ. And I give him all the glory. I wouldn't be alive. I wouldn't be out of my prison cell. I would be, lost in a world of pain without my Father in heaven, who delivered me time and time again from every enemy and every oppressor. And I know what he's done for me, he's going to do for America. He's already began. And the work that he begins, he's the author and the finisher of our faith. And so the work that he begins, he's faithful to bring to completion. And I know he's got a great work he's doing in me, and I can't wait to see the completion of that work. And I can't wait to see what he's got in store for our country. It's going to, like I said a couple times now, it is the golden age of America. And, it's more than a statement. That's more than a catchy slogan that President Trump's talking about. Men have to stand up. Women have to stand up and take back the reins of control of every branch of our government. Right now, we have the executive. And technically, we have the judiciary and, with the Supreme Court judges we have, and the House of Representatives. And the U.S. Senate. But the judiciary, as we've seen, most of these federal judges that are like activist judges are running rampant with control. They're legislating from the bench. They're striking down laws. They're preventing Donald Trump from doing, legally admissible things like deport illegal aliens and criminals. And, we need men and women to stand up and to say, we're going to start to go into the judiciary and start to become the next generation of judges and of prosecutors, people that have a sense of love for our country and or not traitors to the Constitution. And so that's what, my campaign is all about, just being another cog in the wheel, another spoke in the wheel to making America into this next generational prosperous nation. And so, I'm just doing my part.
Well, it's a wonderful part, Jake, and I'm glad that we have you back on. And you're welcome to come back on anytime also. So you just turn around, go to AJ. Hey, I got to talk to that girl again. Get me back on.
Of course. Yes, I enjoyed being with you guys so much love and the spirit of God and the spirit of courageousness for our country is here. I appreciate so much being on your platform. And, while I was in prison, it was not a popular thing. Right now we're like, a little more politically expedient to associate with after President Trump pardoned us, but it was people like yourself that showed fidelity towards us, the Jan 6ers and the MAGA movement, when we weren't, the cool kids on the block, when we were actually social pariahs, and Fox News counted us off as dead. They didn't cover us one time. I'd never been on Fox my entire life. I've been on every other podcast platform, but certain establishment media platforms basically wrote us off as dead. Actually, the only time we could hear about any January 6th news from the TV while we were incarcerated was from the other side. They would be reporting, calling us insurrectionists and stupid stuff like that. But that's better. Listen, it's better to be disparaged than completely forgotten, right? And Fox pretended that we weren't alive, that we weren't incarcerated, and CNN covered us every day. I mean, every single day there was another Jan 6 this, that, trying to vilify Trump through January 6th. But still, I at least I can respect my opponents. I can't respect people that have no integrity whatsoever just to write us off. So thank you, and so much for giving me a platform now and even when I was incarcerated. I appreciate it.
Well, we're going to end the show with Justice for All by the J6ers. So, Jake, God bless and good luck on the campaign. People can find you at jakelangforsenate.com. All right, we'll talk soon. God bless.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right, take care.
God bless you guys. Make America great again.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, o'er the ramparts we watch, words so gallantly stream. And to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Here we go. Sorry, I'm messing up.
I'm praying for this land I love, America, America, the home of the free. But there are people making plans to change America. They've no respect for her or what matters most to me. That's why I stand for the flag and I kneel at the cross. Long for the friends I have loved and lost. And I still believe in God we trust, and the freedom our forefathers granted us. I hope it's not too late to save America. Do you hear our battle cry across America? We've got to rescue her. You know it's up to me and you to see the truth behind their lies. Don't change America. God bless America and the red, white, and blue. That's why I stand for the flag and I kneel at the cross. Long for the friends I have loved and lost. And I still believe in God we trust, and the freedom our forefathers granted us. I hope it's not too late to save America. For the friends we have loved and lost, and we still believe in God we trust, in the freedom our forefathers granted us. We know it's not too late to save America. Save America. Let's save America. Together we can save America.